Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Snapshot, episode 80. I'm Brendan Patrick, joined always by Marvel Snap Phenom, KM Best. KM, your week in Marvel Snap, sir.
Hit or miss. The reset hit me harder than a bunch of other people for some reason. I was coming off of 2 consecutive, top 15 finishes, and I got reset to a point where a bunch of people who finished below me just came in above me for no real reason. It's not like I had a bad climb or anything, but it is pretty demoralizing. And I was pretty demoralized until I saw it happen to Zuns, who finished first by 500 SP and came in behind a bunch of other people anyway, too. And so I think it's just one of those things where you just gotta be well, that happens. I guess that's just a thing that we're just gonna have to deal with forever until they fix the rank system. And I'll just try to enjoy the game in the meantime, because I've been getting a little bit psycho tryhard recently. I talked about this on the last podcast, and I think I need to be a content creator. I mean, I'm good at the game, but I think I need to not let the game define me, get back to being, taking care of myself better. Before the podcast, we talked about how I was almost late because I had just gotten back from the gym and my stomach was upset. And it's just that's not a thing that used to happen.
Yeah, we had some theories about that, actually. We were tossing around.
Yeah, does it have something to do with the multiple microwave pizzas and fried rice and multiple croissants and large amounts of pre-workout that I took? Yes. But I used to eat like that and do all this stuff, and it wasn't a problem. Therefore, it is related to getting old.
Yeah, I mean, you are mainlining that pre-workout like Jeff Fuel.
That's not even true. I take a normal dose.
Really? Once a day?
Yes. I mean, what I'll do before the gym is take a normal dose. And then usually when I'm streaming, I take caffeine to keep going. But on a day when I'm not streaming, all I've had today is whatever is in one scoop. It's a large scoop, but it's the dose scoop of my pre-workout.
Interesting. Yeah. Well,
I even supplement fiber.
Interesting.
It's important.
You should try prebiotics as well.
I'm trying to do everything I can.
I don't take them anymore. But
here's my actual issue, though. Here's what's actually happening. I'm Jewish. I've skated on digestive issues being Jewish for 31 years.
Is that a thing?
Oh my God, it is a thing.
Oh shit, I had no idea.
You're unaware of the thing that links all of us together, the chosen people, is my tummy hurts. That's the thing that does it. Lactose intolerance, various other intolerances. There are so many things that link us together as a people, and all of them are, I can't eat that.
I gotta inquire about my religious ancestry, because I have celiac disease and I can't eat gluten. So maybe I'm one of us. Yeah,
you could join the tribe.
It's the prerequisite is if your tummy hurts.
Your tummy's gotta hurt. It links us all.
Anyway, we had a new card released this week. It was Hydra Bob 1/4. It says after each turn, this moves if the player snap. Is this the worst card?
Can you do me a favor and refer to him by his government name?
What is his government name?
Hydration Robert.
Oh,
I'm sick of everyone abbreviating his name. It's disrespectful.
Is it the worst card ever released in Snap?
Christ, no.
What's the worst?
This card's playable. Martyr, probably?
Which one? Which one was it?
Martyr?
Yeah, Martyr. I feel like Martyr. I kind of thought about playing Martyr when it came out. When Bob came out, I was like, nah.
Bob is way more playable immediately than Martyr was. Significantly. I played a deck with Bob and gained 30 cubes with it.
Yeah, I think that the Martyr issue is it was harder to see how bad it was. I mean, it does say lose you the game, but Bob just being a 1/4 is just, it felt like a miss, the stats were not correct. It felt like it was
but oversight. Here's the issue. If you're the Marvel Snap devs, how the hell do you make 1-drops anymore?
You've talked about this. You have talked about this. I don't know.
How do you do that? It just seems so impossible, right? Your goal is to make something that has to be able to compete with Ant-Man, right? And if it was everything else, right, you could just be just slap an extra point of power on it. But you can't slap an extra point of power on an Ant-Man. You can't be here's a 1/6. That's insane. You can't do that. The margins are so much smaller for smaller cards. They could do probably anything they wanted with a 6-drop. You could come up with any dumbass text and probably put it in and make it work on a 6-drop or a 5-drop, right? easy to make those, and that's why there's so many of them. I can't imagine how hard it must be to make 1s and 2s. Like, even something like US Agent, when you look at the original version of US Agent in the data mines, it was basically just slightly power crept lizard. And it's just like, that's the most boring shit on earth. Like, not only how do you make a card that is balanced, but also how do you make one that isn't just super boring?
Yeah.
And to their credit, they've done okay with that on 2s. Like, White Widow and US Agent are definitely not boring. They're kind of annoying, but they're not boring, right? I don't know what the fuck they're supposed to do for 1s. I don't know. Like, I saw Silver Sable, which is like a 1-drop that drains 2 power from the top of card of the deck. So you bounce it or you bast it. Like, you bast it, that's a 1/5. You bast it and you bounce it, that's a 1/7 without even talking about the drain on the 2 power. Like, that. Like, again, like when you look at that, you're just like, that's either really good or unplayable. That feels like every 1-drop now. It's got to be either really good or unplayable.
Yeah, a bit of hoop jump in there. So I think the reason why Bob in particular is at the forefront of my mind, because I really like the mechanic. Like, I would like to have played with this mechanic. I would like to be more. I would have liked Bob to come out a bit pushed and then maybe be tweaked back down, because it is a unique way of interacting with the game.
I think that's like, I remember having this debate 6 months ago. Would people rather cards be released broken and tuned down, or released down and tuned upwards? And I ran a poll on Twitter, and it was exactly 50-50. I was like, okay, I learned nothing from this poll. I've gathered absolutely no information other than there's not really a right answer there.
Very interesting. Yeah, what party are you in?
I don't care.
Okay, come on. If you had to care, Jesus.
No, I don't care. Like, I'll buy the card anyway. So if they buff it later, that's cool for me. If it sucks, that's also cool for me.
Empathize with the common man.
I'm not in the situation where I can empathize with the common man. I can't do it. It's like asking Bill Gates, like, hey man, what's your favorite McDonald's order? Like, he's not going to be able to give you a real answer. He can bullshit you. But it's not going to be like, it's going to be for PR. It's not going to be like he's not a real McDonald's head, you know? He doesn't have the app.
I like cards getting released, overtuned. I wouldn't say overpowered, I'd say overtuned and tweaked back down, because I genuinely like every single week to be able to look forward to something that I think will make a meaningful impact on the metagame. Of course, there's OTAs, of course, there's patches that sort of facilitate that. But I believe we had a bunch of hits back to back to back. And I remember there was a period of time, I can't remember exactly, where we kind of had a few duds. And I was like, that's where I really made my decision. It's like, I'd rather just be getting excited every Tuesday where it's like, okay, we can brew with something, not where it's like, okay, this card is clearly understated. I shouldn't buy it.
Okay.
It's objectively incorrect for me to buy this for my financial strategy in Marvel Snap, because that's what it takes to play this game.
I agree with where you're coming from. I understand where you're coming from. But I feel like this is one of those situations. Are you familiar with Community? The main character of Community is someone who finds themselves able to sort of argue everything compellingly enough that it reads true, right? And I feel like I could do that with this. So like, if I take the opposite side, I feel like I could really convince people that this is the right thing to do.
Yeah,
and so that's what I'm going to do right now, which is going to say like, look, when we had hit after hit after hit after hit after hit, do you know what they call that? Power creep.
Yeah.
Every card being good means that people get priced out of at least 3 good cards every month. It makes it harder for people to catch up if they're free to play, especially because those cards don't re-enter the caches until 3 or 4 months later. So if that card ends up good, okay, oh well. Now, that problem does also apply to when they buff stuff later, the cache problem, you can't get it, right? But at least you're not like, oh my god, I just couldn't afford to buy, I don't know, Red Hulk or Nocturne because they released 2 weeks from each other.
Yep. And people are huge fans when cards are very powerful and then they get nerfed into oblivion and are unplayable.
Oh, they love it.
They love that. That's their favorite part of Marvel Snap, is how dynamic the cards are. How sound the investments are.
The number one, maybe not the number one complaint, but it's in the top 5 about Marvel Snap that I get on my channel in my comments is they just release broken stuff and then nerf it, so you have to buy the next broken thing. Yeah. And when every card is aimed high, that feels like a natural thing that has to happen. And there's no way to avoid it because they can't make everything perfect. There are only so many numbers on a card. Sometimes the card is either going to be too high or too low.
Yeah, I think there's also a sort of background theory that I have that, it kind of exists where I would rather even though I like to play games competitively, I'd rather games be optimized for fun and sometimes not be balanced than the opposite of that. Because I did go through a period of Flesh and Blood in particular where they had a dud after dud after dud after dud, and it was like, it was very balanced, kind of. Like there weren't any broken, powerful cards, but yeah, it was not good. And they've really turned that around. Now they're just printing fucking bangers, banning shit. Like it's like they're like fucking
shout
cowboys.
Out to my boy. Shout out to my boy Brian.
Yeah. Huge
shout out to my boy Brian Gottlieb. Genuine inspiration to me as a person on a podcast. Did you guys ever make up, or are you guys still mad at each other, by the way?
Oh, I would say I was never mad at Brian. I'd be surprised if he was mad at me, but if he was, he would have to like inherently be like a very vindictive kind of sad person. So he's not.
So he does not care.
No, I think there's one thing. We just kind of disagreed on something. And then I think that the community took sides between me and Brian. So
I see.
I don't think me and Brian have a problem, to be honest. We're both just... He's focused on making Flesh and Blood. I'm focused on doing everything I am in my life. The last thing that would ever sort of, interrupt my day-to-day happiness and what I'm doing is like a little disagreement on Twitter that happened one time about one topic. We also worked
shut up,
for 2 to 3
Mr.
years.
Well-adjusted. Be normal like the rest of us and get mad about shit that happens on the internet.
Got adjusted
That's
too low.
disgusting.
Fuck this game.
Yes, fuck this game. Yes. Feel it. I need you to feel it.
No, I think he's a really good person though. He's actually the inception of this podcast. He introduced us. That's sort of how this happened.
Enormous shout out to Brian. There is something I wanted to say about the previous topic before we're going to talk about Marvel Snap for a little bit. The major thing that I wanted to get across was it is almost assuredly better for them to release every card good.
Yep.
There is no chance it's not better for them if every card is good, because then everyone wants to buy all the cards, right? Like, very straightforward. If they are only releasing one piece of content every week, you want that piece of content to be impactful, or it is like you have not released any content at all. Very, very, very straightforward, right? Whether or not that's better for us is a different story. I can't say I know that, but I do feel like it is very clear to me that the best thing for the company is release strong.
Yeah, slight tangent. Just an intrusive thought. I wonder if Marvel Snap is doing, and Second Dinner is doing well right now. Like, I wonder if they're, in 2024 when they do their, quarterly or now semi-annual review, if they're like, we're crushing it. Because I haven't heard anything in a long time. Like, we used to speculate like a long time ago on this podcast. We're like, oh, they're doing well. Are they not? And turns out that they were. I
feel like they have to be making just a very large amount of money.
It's hard because they raised a lot of money. So, usually I would be like, okay, let's just go look at their job opening and see how many, how much they're hiring, right? Because that's kind of an indicator of growth sometimes. But they did raise a lot of money. So I think that might kind of muddy the waters a bit. I just wonder, like, if Marvel Snap the game is contracting. If it is, like, I
think it is.
I think it is. To what extent?
Based on being a creator, I would suspect that it is to some degree.
For sure. And there's 2 ways you can make money, right? You either get more customers or you get more money out of the customers you have.
Mm-hmm.
And
there is like a worry about, the death drive of capitalism forcing the answer to be B. Wait. They are. We got
to break that down. The death drive of capitalism forcing the answer to
B, the second one you suggested, which is get more money out of the customers until you eventually drive them all off, right? Mm-hmm. Like, when I talk about the death drive of capitalism, it's this pursuit of growth at any cost. There is no room in capitalism for a sustainable business. Your job is always growth. And in many cases, you have Second Dinner not being a publicly traded company does not have this, but in any publicly traded company, there's a fiduciary duty to achieve that growth.
They have investors, though. I mean, they definitely.
Yeah, but it's not like legally codified the same way, I would imagine. Like,
I'm sure their metrics of success are based around financial numbers, financial targets.
Oh God, yes. I would imagine that the game is slightly smaller now than it was when it first came out. Based on, like, I can tell you personally, my YouTube subs have decreased dramatically, but maybe I just suck, right?
The rate or the YouTube subs themselves?
Oh, the rate of increase.
Okay. I was gonna say, I was like, damn, you fucking getting
I
pissing people off.
No. The rate of increase has decreased. It's been up and down in various forms, right? But I would say, like, generally the rate of increase has decreased in a notable way. KM Best fell off. # this is my favorite fallen off podcast. But yeah, I would say based on my, like, I'm still, what's weird to me is that it's not like the money's fallen off that much. Like, I'm not making a lot less money than I was, but I am on the low end of my range, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's maybe not as many sort of like when you think about your current content strategy, the current state of your content, there's probably not, you might not have that very optimistic view that you had when you were starting. You're like, oh, where's the ceiling? Because you're like, I'm at the floor and this game is contracting. You're here. I'm at the lower end of my range. You know?
I never had that view in the first place.
Oh, okay.
I never thought I'd get this far.
Never gonna make it big.
I never thought this would happen. No.
You know what's funny about this podcast? If Marvel Snap dies, do you think this podcast dies?
I don't know, dude. That's kind of up to you.
say it wasn't up to us. Say we had 100%. We wanted to continue it. Do you think our audience?
I bet we could transition into like another card game. I honestly do think we could probably.
What if it wasn't even a card game? What if? Because
I guess we'd lose 50%. Or do you think we could just be like one of those two white guys yapping podcasts?
So here's a comment. Ben and Snap. Quick little previews from Beta Ray Bill Lover. Been around for a while. So this is barely a Marvel Snap podcast. The reason people tune in is we like to hear Cam and Brendan yap.
I have my own little word. Yeah, I have my own little preview for the record. I have my own little preview of the Bend and Snap section because I knew you wouldn't pick this one out.
Okay.
But I wanted to pick it out for you. It's the most liked comment on our last video. It's Brendan, you can stop flexing so hard.
Yeah, so I actually moved the camera backwards. I think that's what happened. But I have a story.
No, you have to. It's this. No, like literally, it's this. It's when your bicep is outwardly rotated.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
It's called stretching. Look people.
Right. No. Outward rotated, not inward rotation. Right. Like, so your hand right here, the one not on the mouse.
Yes.
No, the other one, other bicep. Right. Go like this.
I can't see you.
You can't. Okay. Hands, shoulders, hands down.
Okay.
Yeah, and then outwardly rotate that other hand
like that.
Lower your hand a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, like that.
Let's get there.
That's what they're there for. That's what they're talking about.
So I have a story. So for the past 10 years, I had a series of health problems at one point, probably honestly for a large part of my 20s, and it was actually really bad. It was a series of health problems. But as a result, I had a lot of blood tests. And for about 10 years, it looked like I was fucking dying on my blood tests because my kidney function was terrible. There's two markers. One's called GFR, which is some sort of filtration rate. And the other one's called creatinine. My creatinine was high out of range and my GFR was low out of range. Consistency for 10 years, and it was actually getting worse. It looked to be getting worse, and I was diagnosed at one point with like stage whatever the fuck kidney disease, which is not a good thing to be diagnosed with. It's progressive, it doesn't get better, etc. So I finally go see because of my new insurance, because of my government subsidized insurance, I had some numbers from my PCP, my primary care doctor, that were particularly bad. They were particularly bad. I was like, holy shit. So I go see a nephrologist. I have to see a new one because I have this new insurance and they don't take my old insurance. So I see this guy and he's like, oh, there's this new test. There's this new marker called cystatin C. And it's made for people just like you. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, it's very possible that you're actually not dying at all and that your body just functions at this rate. And I was like, why did nobody else tell me that? So apparently it's kind of an outlier. So there is like a level of just like daily exercise, high protein diet, and sort of body mass composition along with genetics.
That'll do that. Yeah.
But yeah, that will push these numbers out of range. So they developed this new test called cystatin C. And this guy was like very excited about it. He was like the most energetic nephrologist I've ever in my life. He's like, I can't believe they came out with this. I thought I would retire before they did. This is the best thing to ever happen. I was like, okay, let's fucking send it. So we send it. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm beyond fine. My kidney function is above average. And I was like, it was like, I'm telling 10 years of these tests and they were getting worse and worse and worse. And it was like, yeah, I mean, I had a kidney biopsy. Like I went through the whole thing and the kidney biopsy came up fine. So we didn't take any further measures. But like, oh yeah, you're probably just going to die in like 5 years. Like what? Like, Jesus Christ. So yeah, I'm like beyond fine. Actually I have like very good function.
What did that have to do with flexing?
Well, it has to do with muscle mass, basically. Like that, it'll push it'll push your numbers out of range.
Right. So, like, what you're trying to say is you're too jacked for traditional medicine.
Too jacked, indeed.
And yet, I remain the bench press champion of the show.
True. I've been getting up there, bro.
It's really incredible how much fat can do for you.
I've been creeping up. I've been creeping up. I'm starting to rep 275.
Nice.
275. That I know that's probably baby numbers for you, but that's I'm for the first time in probably, I don't know, 6-7 years, I'm stronger than I have been at some point in the past. Like when I was in college. Yeah, so this is like the first time for like 6-7 years. Because in college, I guess
you were me. I look like your before picture.
No, not then. Before that. Before that. I never threw up a bench PR when I was 260. I probably should have.
You should have tried, bro. Like, I got to tell you, being fat is a cheat code on bench. It's so sick.
Sheer fucking physics just throwing that.
Yeah, just think about how much less you have to move.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. I actually had my first shoulder issue 2 days ago. I don't think it's anything. It's just, I think a series of things, like my neck gets tight, my chest gets tight. I was actually having a bit of a hard time rotating when I was benching my shoulder.
Ooh, I've never even had that.
Damn, bro. I was like, I started to feel your pain. Obviously not at all because I don't have a medical issue. But I was like, damn.
Mine is actually getting better. I mean, I've taken a lot of time off and I bought a slingshot and I've been working really hard on my form. So I'm much lower on my chest now, much more inward on the grip, which I was originally afraid of. I moved my grip outward because that's what alleviated the pain, but I don't think that's a good long-term strategy. And luckily, the slingshot and the work I've been doing on my form have put me into a place where, like, I'll get some mild discomfort sometimes, but nothing nearly as bad as what had to cause me to get the surgery previously.
What's the optimal grip for moving the most amount of weight? Is it closer or farther apart?
It's going to depend on the length of your arms.
Okay.
And, like, where you can best get leverage. I suspect that the answer in real terms is going to be farther apart because it, again, reduces the amount of distance you have to go. For me, I prefer, like, I guess you could also do like, okay, depending, it's very form dependent, right? So like with close grip, you can get to and really cut the distance down that way.
Yeah.
I tend to prefer a closer grip than most, I think.
Yeah.
That has always been how I like to handle it. That is, I don't really know why. It's always felt easier to me, but I think, like, here's my big secret. Like, you're talking about 225, 275. When I went up from 315 to 405, when I was doing that work, the only work I was really doing was form work.
Okay.
Like, that's all that really changed was
that makes sense.
Whether I believed in myself to do it and the form that I was using to do it.
Yeah.
Like,
very accurate.
It was not all that meaningfully different in terms of what my body looked like and all of that. It was just like, oh, wait, I could just try this and it'll work and it'll be fine. It's not that bad. And yeah.
Same thing with my running, by the way. I just woke up one day and I was like, man, I don't see myself as a dude who runs 10-minute miles on trail. So I started running 7:30s. That's all it was. That's a massive reduction. I was just like, I don't know. It's just like, fuck it. I just did it.
One day you're just like, yeah, I could probably do that.
Yeah, I could probably do that. And you do that and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, you're like, oh yeah, that wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
I had a ton of help from spotters, though. Like, someone to do the lift off on those weights is like, I credit that to like why, like, part of the reason I started developing shoulder injuries, I think, is because of the pandemic. I didn't have a spotter. I didn't have anyone to help me with the, like, that's the worst part of the bench for your shoulders is when you're going like,
yeah. You ever done incline bench where you're just like, fuck, taking that thing from the backfield.
It's so
nightmare.
bad.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually terrible. And basically, as soon as I stopped going to actual gyms and having spotters, that's when my shoulder injuries started happening. I genuinely kind of do think that's probably real.
Yeah, I have a recent spotter story. So I've worked out alone for like, let's say 90% of 10 years. Occasionally I brought people in there, like friends, or showed people, like the basic 3-day split, and then they go off on their own and they become, jacked, I guess. Mm-hmm. But I had a friend who was like, "Oh, I want to kind of start lifting." I was like, "Yeah, come with me." And I had him spot me on bench one time. I think it was like 245. So pretty close to like what I would comfortably rep by myself.
Yes.
But first time him spotting me, I was like, "Yeah, I'll push it." Like I definitely don't have this last rep in me, but fuck it, send it. He's there. My man almost let me die on that bench.
Hell yeah, brother.
He had about, he must have had about 2.5 to 3 pounds of upward force coming. And I was just like, it was a close one.
For me, it was a lot of like mental shit, right? Like, the way I would always have a spotter do is like, I would give like very specific instructions, because when you're moving a lot of weight, you're able to do that. Like, so basically what I would do is I would just go find the biggest guy in the gym and be like, "Hey, can you help me?" Like, that's because like when you're benching, because like this is back when I was benching in the 4 plate range. And it's like, you even though I don't necessarily look it, if you're moving 4 plates, you are in the big boys club, right? And so like you get to be like, all right, like heavy lift off, no touch afterwards, basically. Or heavy lift off, just like 2 fingers guiding the bar path, right? And that's always how it looks. Like, I fucking hate that lift off. The lift off and what it does to your shoulders, demonic. I hate it so much. But once it's like, over in the right position, all I really need help with is knowing there's someone there and I won't die, and guiding the bar path.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty funny because I'd never pushed it like that. You get that one, you're done. You've got like half a rep in you, and then you can go for it and you'll be maybe successful. I did that one. I was successful. And then I had that 10%er in me. I was like, I got 10% of this one in me, but I got a spotter. I'll be fine. Oh, absolutely fucking not. Absolutely not. I was just like,
I mean, you know how to do the roll, surely.
Yeah, but I had to tell him, I was like, "Brother, you gotta tell me if like you gotta tell me if you're gonna give me 2 to 3 pounds of upward force to get this off of me." I learned my lesson. Anyway, deeper into the bend and snap we go. First one is from our second one now.
I feel like no, deeper into the bend and snap. We haven't even technically started it. You just gave a little preview and we got into that.
Now we're just going deeper down the rabbit hole. Laboo. This is a stupid point to make, but there's no writers room in comics. Generally, comic books are a collaboration between a single writer and an artist. In this case, Grant Morrison was the writer of Frank Quietly. Grant Morrison was the writer, and Frank Quietly, sorry, the last time threw me off, was the artist who created Cassandra Nova. Bald Woman is one of the most sane concepts in their X-Men run.
I'm not saying it's an insane concept, but like also reducing Cassandra Nova to bald woman and then calling that sane is nuts.
To be fair, did use quotations on bald woman here.
There is a literal panel of baby Professor X in utero punching baby Cassandra Nova with a fist. He wasn't even using like psychic. He just punched baby Cassandra Nova. It is a little bit reductive. Like, yes, bald woman might be the least crazy thing about Cassandra Nova's character, but it is still funny to be like, damn, we really need to make sure people know she's Professor X's. We need a visual cue to tell them bald woman. Like, it's congenital, sure.
Speaking of, somebody hooked me up. Actually, Brandon, so fellow Bran prefix there. Brandon, I got you. Spider-Man, Spider-Woman, Miss Marvel, Mr. Fantastic, Iceman, Multiple Man. Because I said...
I'm sorry. Wait, what the fuck?
What do you mean, what the fuck?
Brandon?
Yeah, Brandon.
Fellow Bran prefix?
Yeah. I guess I'm a Bren, huh? I think...
Yeah!
I like to...
I was like, what the fuck is happening?
I'm trying to find some solidarity with my friend here, okay?
Dude!
Also, my name has been misspelled so many times in my life that
You've been gaslit into believing the wrong name?
I have wrestling medals that say Patrick Brendan on them. Like, who the fuck thinks Brendan's a last name?
You do? Who the fuck thinks Patrick's a last name?
Hey.
You have 2 first names.
I don't have 2 last names though.
You have no last names.
I do not have 2 last names. That is for damn sure. Anyway, whatever. Yeah, Spider-Man, Spider-Woman. This is just ridiculous. Like, you put me on the spot. Speaking of that, you put me on the spot. You're like, name some, and I was like, fuck.
Yeah,
I said to name them.
I like your impression of me.
What was it?
Name some.
Name some.
You put me. Yeah. You made me sound like. Hey,
it's for comedic relief.
I'm trying to figure out who he made me sound like. Let me know in the comments who he made me sound like. Like Emperor Palpatine. Do it.
All right, next one is from Tristan. It says, idea for a mechanic. Put a trigger effect retroactively on cards with that effect, such as Hope Summers, Thena, Werewolf by Night, Lockjaw, Angela, Adam, Warlock, etc. SD could print a Cosmo and an Enchantress that block/strip triggered effects.
That sounds like a terrible mechanic.
It's not a mechanic, it's more a rework. Oh, are you talking about
right,
the second part?
What's happening there is you're adding a word to all of these cards that it does not need to be there. And then you're printing cards that turn off those cards when there's no need to do that either. Why would they do that? Why would they be like, you know what this game needs more? The thing everyone loves about this game is Shang-Chi, Enchantress, and Cosmo. That's what everyone loves. There should be more of those in Marvel Snap.
I do like some of those cards. Maybe not those ones, but you know. Eliath. I love Eliath. I loved old Eliath. You know, whatever you play, destroy it. Leader, wherever you play, copy it.
We need to make more sandcastles kickable. We need more sandcastles that we can kick down. We need steel-toed boots to kick down these sandcastles.
Hell yeah. Speaking of, there was a bundle in the shop, an Arrow bundle, particularly beautiful variant in my opinion, although there are many, many good ones. Can we please buff that card? Revert that card, baby?
I think you could print old Arrow right now.
Yeah.
I think they're just afraid.
I miss that
they're
card.
Afraid to do it.
I love some of, like, I think maybe it diluted some of the endgame scenarios where you kind of went into these, like, damned if you do, damned if you don't situations, particularly with, like, the old Arrow leader combination. But I loved old Arrow. Like, I thought that card was really, really fun. So, and
I think that card is really, really fun. And it does get counterplayed by the incredible counterplay of literally just fill your board up, idiot. And I think that is actually valid counterplay to some degree. Like, maybe I'm overrating how easy that is to do, but every deck is playing Mysterio right now. Literally, how hard can it be?
Yeah. While we're at it, just revert Galactus.
Okay, let's
fill your board
let's
up.
Let's not
idiot.
get crazy. Let's not get crazy.
Fill your board.
Like, I feel like Arishem coming out has given all of the, like, I don't even know the right way to describe them. Like, everyone who's ever had a bad take, as soon as a broken card comes out, they're like, this means that my bad take is justified.
I don't know
so
how.
Arishem comes out and it's like, oh, this card's broken. Okay, you know what? That means it's fine to revert Galactus.
All right. I was going to say, I don't know why you're saying that so soon after I gave a legitimate point, but nevertheless.
Really? Yeah.
Nevertheless. It almost felt like you were insinuating that I was making a bad point.
A bad take?
Yeah.
Yeah. It did almost feel like that. I can understand how you would have picked up that insinuation because that was the intent of the way I structured it.
I would have been extremely offended if that had been the case. Nevertheless, have you seen some of these takes? I think we talked about it last week, maybe, about Arishem, where it's like, I've seen these takes on Twitter. It's like, Arishem takes all the skill out of the game. I'll be coming back to Marvel Snap once it's
okay,
gone.
we can just say who you're talking about. I know who you're talking about.
I don't, but to be fair, I don't know who I'm talking about because I read it and I internalized it and I have forgotten the name since.
I don't want to dunk on that one specifically because I don't want to just like dunking on it behind it's like just making fun of someone on an alt. I don't believe in that. I do think it's not a great take, but I get it. Like, I think that a lot of people are mad at the random generation of Arishem, and it's like, no, dummy, you're mad at the wrong thing. What you should be mad about is getting leeched and Doc-Ocked on turn 4. That's what you should be fucking mad about. That shit stinks. We've been in so many of these metas where it's like super defined by The dumbest fucking 5-drop you can possibly imagine at the earliest time you could possibly imagine it. Professor X, Leech, now you have Doc Ock, and like, it's just like, they need to stop making ramp. Like, they need to stop letting people play 5-drops on 4, because at some point, one of these stupid fucking sandcastle kicking 5-drops will ruin someone's day every time.
Yeah. No, my favorite thing about Arishem is how, like, it's clearly the ramp effect is clearly overpowered, but they decided to put on a card where it's like, oh, you get all these random cards, like there's all this variance, and you have this big deck, and you don't get to draw your cards. But it still just feels oppressive, right? Because you're, like you said,
yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, I mean, but if you had pitched them,
like, it's not, I guess it's not that bad.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But if you had pitched them, you're like, what if you could play Doc Ock on 4? They'd be like, no, absolutely not. Like,
well, I think there is a number on Arishem that makes him fine. Like in terms of what is that number? I don't know, 15, 18, something like that in terms of the cards he mixes in.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think if you do that, he's probably going to be pretty bad even. I think at this point, though, I have come around to the conclusion that if you are going to make any card strong and have a play rate like Arishem did, there's not a single card that would have been more fun than Arishem to have a play rate of this level.
Agreed.
And so, like, it's like, yes, it's bad, but it's as good as it could possibly be in that lane. Which is to say, if you're going to have a deck that's like 50% of the meta, this is the only fun way to do it.
Yeah.
And so I get why they were doing what they did here. Like, it makes sense to me. It's honestly, if I had to guess, it's probably their most successful card release ever. Like, I don't know how they can look at this and be like, yeah, that's an L. If I were them, I would look at this and I would be like, we need to make more Arishems.
Yeah, but they might be looking at the play data and then it's saying, okay, it's a little too high. We need to tune it back. And if we do it in the future, like maybe we don't release at this kind of power level. Maybe it was
so someone dug into this because I've been seeing people talking about how High Evo was nerfed very quickly after release. And so Torikun dug into that for me. High Evo was not nerfed until a month and a half after release. Spider-Man got nerfed in the OTA after High Evo a month and a half before Wasp and Hulk got nerfed. And so I think that people are going to be like coping about, ooh, we're going to get an Arishem nerf on the 18th. Like, I think that is, if you currently believe that, I would encourage you to temper your hopes, because that seems insane.
Right this time.
If they actually do it, I look like a fucking idiot.
Yeah. So in regards to gameplay, what is the problem with Arishem in your opinion, and in the opinion of maybe I hesitate to say this, higher elo or higher ranked players?
Yeah,
what is the
dumbass
problem?
5-drop stuff.
Yeah. Is it also that the mirrors can be a bit swingy on the tech cards?
Not really.
Okay, because that was the original complaint.
The mirrors have calmed down.
Okay.
Like people are cutting Darkhawk. It's less ridiculous now because all the mirrors now have like 5 cards that beat Darkhawk. So like, not only is it like like Rogue and Shang, it's also like multi-blobs, it's also like Echo and Arishem, and so like now the mirrors are just like 50 cards that can deal with that problem, and presenting it is almost worse than answering it, and so you end up in a spot where it's like, oh, okay, I guess we're just gonna live with that then, right? Like I've seen people playing Cosmo to protect their Darkhawks, but it's like, maybe, I don't know, there's a lot of counterplay to just big Darkhawk. And for that reason, I am excited for Cassandra Nova.
I'm excited for Cassandra Nova as well. I mean, speaking to what you said about them not nerfing Arishem, I mean, surely they don't nerf him before Cassandra comes out. That would be ridiculous. And we already spoke about that.
That would be a little ridiculous, I think.
Yeah, at least let it settle a bit. All right. Janman, I'm curious what you guys think of Jeff Hoogland's take on Arishem, because he's running basically none of the cards that you're saying are like 100% necessary.
actually, I'm assuming this is like a little bit outdated. Jeff was on like no Darkhawk, no Blob, no Tech. Of those, I think the one that ended up being roughly correct was no Darkhawk, but that doesn't end up being correct until it ends up being correct, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a certain threshold of you're in the metagame that you're in, right? And right now, I think it's because all of these decks have teched so hard against Darkhawk. Now I think it's acceptable to cut Darkhawk. Was that true a week ago? No, I don't really believe so. Not running Blob, I think, is kind of criminal a little bit. And like what he was doing, I liked the ethos of, but I do think that like you could probably run cards like Blob and the tech cards and feel pretty smart about that.
Next up, some Kaising says, Ben Snap question. At what infinite ranking can you consider yourself good or competitive player? I used to F around in infinite, but this month I had so much fun that I climbed from 70k to 1500 to 2000 ranking, but have a hard time figuring out if that's good or not. PSG's Brennan, you look more jacked every week. Good on you, sir. Your work pays off. That's not true. The camera just gets farther and farther away. That's an interesting question. True. That's a deep question, actually.
Yeah, I hate this question because what's actually happening is, I don't really know how to answer. Like, what's happening is they're asking for my approval. That's what's happening.
You don't think they're asking for my approval?
No, I don't. But what's happening is they're asking me to like sort of give an imprimatur of you're a good player, right? And I think that's just horseshit because you shouldn't let other people define what a good player is. I have thresholds by which like, I will listen to people, but I think for me, it's a lot more about like sustained performance and anything like that, right? Like you can have a bad season or a bad 2 seasons or a bad 3 seasons. And if like I would still listen to you, right? If Moyen came back, I'd be like literally not even in infinite. I would still listen to Moyen. Lambie's playing a lot of other card games right now. I would still listen to Lambie. Like it's not a direct 1-to-1, but in answer to your question, no, I would not listen to someone randomly ranked 1500 infinite.
Yeah, in regards to being good and not good. That's
it's horseshit because
it's a moving goalpost to say the least.
Yes. What matters is that you're improving. That's the only thing you should care about. Your opponent is you. You have to be better than you were.
Yeah. This is kind of a tangential point, and it's slightly not related in the Marvel Snap sense, but I had this question come up a lot on a Lorcana podcast because people were talking about testing groups and they're talking about like, how do I find a group? How do I find people? And one thing I emphasized more than anything was, especially in a scenario like that where you're coming together as a team, you're trying to find an objective result. I care so much less, especially in the early days of a game, about results and, what people have done in the game. Because again, it's also very new. And I care more about mindset, care more about their ability to be humble, their ability to not have ego and try to find an objective result. Because even if someone is good, and it's a big quotations on good, because just because you top 6 teams, it doesn't mean you're fucking good. But they have, they have these terrible behaviors that they bring into the group, whether it's, trying to win, their ego's rooted in a deck or an archetype and they want that to be good more than they care about data and just a million things. It's like, I care so much less about how good someone is at a game and more about how they approach and how they think about it. Your skill and your ability to play the game is non-zero, but it is far, far, far down the list.
Yeah. Here's another thing. You got me talking about testing groups. One thing that I hate is people messaging me asking to join a testing group. Like, if you are considering doing that, I kindly invite you to please not do that. It puts me in a very awkward situation where, like, I don't know you.
Yeah, you probably just ghost them, don't you?
I always respond.
You just say no.
Yeah. I like it. It always makes me feel very uncomfortable. I don't like being put in that situation where I have to gatekeep people.
Yeah.
It really sucks. And
I feel like it's a lose-lose because
I've been on the other side too, where like I've been.
Hey, credit to that person. You got to hustle. You gotta shake that booty if you want to get in the first testing group, the first good one. There's going to be a point in your life when you're going to be a part of a group, a club, a company, a coop, a group of human beings, and
you mean co-op?
No, I mean, because I saw some birds the other day and I was like, oh, it's a coop.
Okay.
But you'll be a part of a group where you will be the least qualified, the least intelligent, the least handsome, the least of everything. And that's a good thing.
Much like myself on this podcast.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
to get there, like sometimes you're going to have to, like you're going to be the outlier, right? You're going to break the rules a little bit. You're going to be the one that's maybe not supposed to be there, but you can become the person that's supposed to be there. That's kind of how we improve. So even though people message me, I don't know if they message me as much as you, but it happens a lot in Fab and particularly Locana right now because it's young.
Yeah, because you're like one of the only like hubs for real competitive players.
Yes, and we talk about testing groups. So, but yeah, I mean, the answer is like it could. Like, is there a universe where things could align? It could be yes, but the answer is like ultimately no. But people have to understand it's also not up to me. And first of all, I'm not even testing. Like, I'm not even like they're asking me for. Like, I don't have this testing group, and I'm not. People have opinions on doing things, or they have. They think I'm doing things that I'm actually not. So it's like I'm not robustly testing for some European tournament that I'm not playing, right? The testing group does not exist. But ultimately, like, it is no. But I still would, even though I'm going to tell you no, or maybe in some cases I'll have to ghost you because I have responded to some people and had some very bad interactions after that where, they messaged me like hundreds of times without responses. I still don't fault them for doing it because you got to hustle. Like, you've got to hustle. And one day,
I'll tell you what I do fault people for.
What for? Getting pissed?
I checked. Did you know that Twitter has a section of messages that don't get approved? It's like there's your DMs, and then there's like your filtered DMs, like everything. So those are mostly booty coin scams, bro. It is. There is a lot of booty coin scams, yes. But I went into there recently, and there was someone who had sent me a question like a year ago. Mm-hmm. I didn't see it. I didn't answer it. For the record, Twitter DM's the worst way to get in contact with me. I have a Discord that I'm very active in. Just join and ask there. It's like a very easy thing to do. I have a Twitch chat. I have a YouTube comments. All of those, much easier. This person felt like they deserved a one-on-one conversation with me, I believe. Because every 6 months, they will now message me to call me an arrogant prick for not responding to their unsolicited Twitter DM question.
Yeah. The worst scenario I had was that someone asked me a very simple question about a deck, and I usually don't respond because I'd had bad interactions in the past. And it's not like I don't think they're a bad person. I don't think the interactions will be bad, but it's like if I open up my DM and I create that direct channel of communication, people will take that as like, oh, this is like an appropriate way to communicate. Let me ask you all these questions that if I just asked you in Discord would provide value to your brand and all the other people.
But now it needs to provide. It's got to provide value to just me now.
Yeah,
it's got to be about me.
I answered the one question, and I think they sent me 50 to 100 messages over the course of like a month to 2 months of just following up, checking and it got weird eventually too. It was just like, and I don't know. After that, I was like, I basically don't answer any DMs right now. You can email me. You can send me an email.
People email me decks sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with them. Like it's always just like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I don't know. Some guy once emailed me, hey KM, I'd like to help you with like therapy.
Yeah.
That was cool. I actually was like, sure, send me a booklet. And then they never got back to me. Fucker.
I will tell anybody that if you hear that and it's like it discourages you, or it's like, I don't know if it sounds kind of arrogant, because I guess in a sense we're kind of putting ourselves like out of pool, out of contact. I don't fault people for doing it.
I am not doing that.
Yeah, no, but I really don't fault people for doing it, because I genuinely believe that if you, even if it is like a 99% no, if you do that enough times, and if that is your way to sort of expand into a testing group or expand into a community, like when the 1% hits, like it's worth it. Because that's what I did. Like I didn't fall out of a fucking coconut tree, good at card games and knowing all the best players and things like that. I didn't.
Still don't.
No, I at one point had gotten like some finishes, not enough to be a good player, and I had reached out to people that were better than me, and I had gotten that 1% response, and then from there, you're good.
I actually got good at card games, like basically through Hearthstone and then Magic. So like Jerry and Brian's Discord back when they did the podcast together. And then that was just sort of, and then I like ended up in testing groups just by nature of being good and trying to be better. And one pro tip that I have for you, and this might sound counterintuitive because we just talked about how like don't DM us, things like that. Like, yeah, you know, I'm a human being. You wouldn't just DM a random person about this. Don't DM me about this. There are set up channels with which I feel comfortable engaging with people. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Just like be normal. Like part of the reason it's so hard to deal with stuff like this is because people assume that like we owe them something or like that we work for them because our jobs are content. And that is a tough thing to deal with for me.
It's interesting because that has happened to me, but I would say it's more the exception than the example. Like it's a few bad apples.
Yeah.
More often than not, people are super normal. It's just like I don't have the bandwidth, and sometimes people are asking me things that it's just like, if you just ask this Discord, it would be infinitely better because I can answer there. Everybody else sees your question, they see your answer, and it's like it just works, you know?
Yeah, like ask me in Discord or something like that. I'm usually around. Like it's pretty easy. But honestly, I find it hard to believe that anyone would have a question for me at this point. Like I make so many YouTube videos of just me yapping. I feel like you should know what I think about everything.
You're also not even top 20, so who gives a fuck?
Yeah, he's fucking washed.
But speaking of falling out of the coconut tree, yeah. Eventually, you know, there's a point in which we might say, hey, don't do this, don't do that, but you just got to break the rules and it might be your breakout, you know, thing. And that's kind of like, that's how a lot of people get where they go. It's like, maybe you shouldn't, maybe it's like we tell you not to do something. I promise you
it's not going to happen if you cold DM me. Unless you're like rank 1 or whatever. I promise you if you're cold DMing me, you will not get a good response. I'll be very nice and polite, but I won't be happy about it.
Next one is from Mark. They say, great pod, guys. What's your take on Galactus?
Yeah. What is our take on Galactus? Let me know. This is what I mean. Where it's like, wait, how do people not know this? But I guess they don't.
Probably the most well-designed card in Marvel Snap. Peak gameplay. Peak fun.
Right. Yep.
Hashtag Nate Shot was wrong.
It's the worst card in Marvel Snap. The worst gameplay, the least fun. Nate Shot was right. And yeah, I think that sums up our collective take.
Absolutely not. Next one from Theo said, what do you think of my fix for the Arishem meta? Since playing around Darkhawk / Bob and tech cards that interact with him is warping said meta, change the effect of Arishem to read, replace 6 of the other cards in your deck with random cards, and still include extra energy.
I think that card's better.
I think you could just do the math on that, couldn't you?
I'm pretty sure you just made Arishem better, if I had to guess. My instinct is that is a better card.
I could see that.
Yeah, that's a better card. Yeah. No, yep, that's a better card. Yeah. We've arrived at it.
All right. Kevin, I love the Marxist analysis of the coconut tree meme.
It's real. That's what she meant. Her parents were Marxist scholars. It is actually definitely disappointing relative to what her parents' politics are that she ended up being this sort of very middle of the road liberal. Anyway,
for what it's worth, Kamala introduced the line with "My mother always used to say," and that's why she's laughing. She's recalling fond memories of her mother. Anyway, this is my first time coming to YouTube just to leave this comment.
Hell yeah!
Hold on. If this comment started at level 1. In terms of funniness, let me crank it up to 9. Brendan looks nothing like I expected, but now that I typed this out, I realize that he is an absolute archetype of a Brendan. The fuck?
Are you sure he's not an absolute archetype of a Brandon? He said they had the same prefix earlier.
What does that mean?
I agree. Brendan as a name gives me the image of like popped collars and rugby fits in that stereotype. Yeah. Like I think like popped collars and maybe not like the greatest beers. Maybe you have like some gauges. I don't know. Like that's the vibe I get off of a Brendan.
Oh my goodness.
And look at you. Tattooed up,
Cat it up.
Did rugby, did wrestling.
Can't drink beer, has celiac, can't have gluten.
I do think of like what I think of is like, and I'm going to be anonymizing this as much as possible. There was like a wealthier neighborhood where I grew up. And that is what I think of when I think of the name Brendan. I didn't even know anyone from named Brendan there. But I think of like imagine a 13-year-old wearing a polo shirt and a puka shell necklace with like the hair that goes like this. That's what I think of.
I feel like if I had any semblance of a reasonable ego for a human being, I would be offended, but I just don't give a fuck.
I don't know why you'd be offended by that.
Dude, plenty of people would be offended if you tell them their archetype is puka shell, pop collar, rich neighborhood. What are you talking about?
That's not actually talking about you. It's talking about what your name is reminiscent of.
I have a question for the pod listeners, especially if you've never watched video, which if y'all still exist, please.
Yeah.
What do y'all think Cam and I would look like based off our voices? I would love to hear a myriad of answers and like what you thought we would look like. You, even if you've seen us already, what you thought we would look like, and what we ended up looking like.
I do feel like you look like what you sound like.
I don't know what I sound like because like when I hear myself back, I'm like, who the fuck is that?
No, I think maybe it's just because I know you, but I think your voice fits you. I think my voice probably doesn't fit me very well.
I think your voice fits you. But I also know you,
see.
and I've always seen your voice has always been associated with your face.
Yes. I think my voice is like a little bit brighter than one would expect from someone who looks like I do.
Yeah, I sound like I've been smoking 10 packs a day for the past 30 years.
Hell yeah, brother.
I'm not even 30 years old. Yeah, that's bad.
Smoking in the womb. You and Cassandra Nova.
Yeah, me and Cassandra Nova just ripping darts in the womb.
Hanging out in there.
Ripping darts.
It's actually a wig. You don't know that, but his fade, it's a wig.
It's a wig. Last one here's from Akla. Say, what if they made cards that took up multiple spaces on the board? Think of Galactus. Man, just trigger words all day.
A lot of Galactus today.
And because he's such a large character in the universe, he needs 2 board slots just to fit him in. You can play around with busted abilities that are balanced because of your limited board space. So I would say this. Well, this would be, in my opinion, this already exists, and this would just be a different animation because we already have cards that take up multiple board spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I don't like it. I feel like.
What if one took up 4? It took up the whole fucking thing. It's just like a big.
Just make the blob
square.
take up 4. The blob should just take up 4 spaces.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Are we suggesting one card, multiple spaces, or one card that fuses with another card?
I mean, I think it could be either.
Spaces.
The thing I'm concerned with is like the animation of it. Is it a singular object occupying 4 spaces, or is it 4 individual cards? Because if it's the latter, I'm not really interested. If it's a big ass,
it's got to be a singular object. Yeah, it's got to be like a big fat blob.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother.
Relatable.
Hell yeah, brother. Take up the whole fucking. All right.
Yeah.
If you want to get your question read on the Bend and Snap, shoot us a comment on YouTube, and we'll get it queued up. All right. So funny is in the notes, it always says main topic, but
like an hour into the podcast, he's like, it's time for the main topic.
And it's fucking 5 minutes long because it's actually about Marvel Snap.
Who are those guys on YouTube who do like a 12-hour response video to like your 1 hour video essay or whatever? That's what we're becoming, right? It's time to move into the main topic, an hour in fucking video.
Yeah, so honestly, I stopped timestamping that because people would not watch the video and be like, "What the fuck is this main topic?" It's like the back 5% of the video, and like the back 95% in, and we're looking at.
We're going downhill now, you know.
Yeah, I'm really.
Wait, you should keep timestamping it. Actually, we should see how short we can get main topic.
Main topic,
like it just be like bullshitting 1 hour. 101 main topic, 103 outro.
I do have a question as well. I mean, I guess 2 questions. So I'm asking a lot of y'all. Raise your hand in the comments if you listen to the Snapshot for Marvel Snap. I'd like to know those.
Brendan's planning the pivot. Yeah. He's like, I can stop. I'm free.
I just feel like it's so accurate sometimes when they're like, because
I think people listen because of Marvel stuff.
Yeah, I would say we only occasionally go off topic. Sometimes it's worse than others. Some episodes are worse than others or better than others.
Depending on your point of view.
One man's trash is another man's treasure.
From my point of view, the Jedi are evil.
Oh, I agree. I agree. Fuck this, guys. All right, let's talk about lists. So, if you're like, where do we find these lists? Cam posts a Sunday deck. Well, sometimes he does it on Monday. Sometimes he gets a little lazy.
That's not what happens.
On Twitter, Cam.
I do it on Mondays when there's a Thursday patch. Yeah. Because otherwise, I'm like, hey guys, I know every deck. I know everything. It's been 2 days and I know everything, which just seems like kind of a jerk off thing to do.
All right. Well, if you're looking where to find these, it's at KMBSMS on Twitter, and he does it every single week. Let's talk about these lists. So we have the Arishem list. I'm just going to read it out. Echo, Rogue, Agent Coulson, Nocturne, Shang-Chi, Loki, Leech, Legion, Mockingbird, Blob, Eliath, Arishem. What are the key thing that this deck? Talk about the key play lines of this deck. She also cut. I was actually pretty surprised.
The key play lines are you get 1 extra energy. Starting on turn 1.
There was I forget what other deck. There was some other kind of brain dead deck that I would always ask you. I was like, oh, so what are the key lines? And you're like, draw this card. I'm like, God damn it, bro.
I don't think Arishem is. I wouldn't describe any deck as brain dead. But
even Hella?
Well, you were gonna say that I am surprised that you cut Mystique.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like it that much either, but I think this list came from Batman. He hit rank 1 with it. It's a bunch of other players at the top end have been like, oh, this is very good. And to me, it looks like just the most complete build of this stuff because it's like, okay, yes, Blob Mystique, very cool. But frankly, without Darkhawk in the deck right now, Mystique is not going to pull that weight. If I wanted that effect, I would go Absorbing Man, which has a lot more overlap with the other cards in the deck. You get multiple tech slots going on right now. Right now, Mystique was doing a lot of her work with Darkhawk, which I no longer think is an incredibly profitable thing to go. When you take away one of her 2 best targets, her really only 2 good targets in the deck, she ends up becoming a lot worse.
Mm-hmm.
I do like copying blobs, don't get me wrong.
Me too. All right.
Can we talk about the flavor of that, by the way?
Copying blobs?
Where it's like, yeah, like Mystique just gets fat. Like they're doing an inflation fetish with Mystique. Like that's what's actually. Someone needs to draw me.
So what happens with Absorbing Man?
Blue blob. Someone needs to draw. I need a comic artist, not like a real comic Marvel comics artist, but like a comic artist, right? Someone who would be able to draw this humorously, where it's just like Mystique, but she's the size of Blob, just like fully inflation fetished out Mystique. I need that. Thank you.
Any other lists you want to talk about? The Arishem list seems like the dominant list in the metagame right now. That's what I've been experiencing, but I'm at a lower end than you are.
Yeah, it is.
Like, what other options are particularly viable in your opinion?
Darkhawk decks that actually invest in Darkhawk are playable. What I'm really interested in is seeing if the Silky Smooth resurgence is real. It's sort of a reaction to, remember the last time Silky Smooth was good was when Shang-Chi was everywhere. Shang-Chi currently everywhere. Rogue currently everywhere. Things that are Shang-Chi-able currently everywhere. I feel like that deck is missing like one big banger 5-drop though. Like it's really missing just like a Gilgamesh type card. Where it's just like, I need like a 5/17 to feel happy about that deck, and I just don't have it. And yeah, that sort of makes me sad. Speaking of which, do we want to talk about next week's card release at all? It did get changed.
Yeah, Ajax.
Yeah.
+2, right? It went from an X.
Yeah, 5/7 now.
5/7? Who was it? I think it was Dexter. Was like, I think that card's still going to be shit.
I am going to try it, right? I just like, it must be a weird thing to design because you're making a card that is like, this seems very strong, unless your opponent plays the card Loot Cage, in which case it sucks shit. So it's like, the one thing I noticed about this is like, Darkhawk hasn't been enough to hold Arishem back, but there are more viable counterplays to Darkhawk and Arishem than there are to Loot Cage and anything else, and it's easier to splash Loot Cage into whatever deck you're playing. So, I'm not sure. I think this guy might need some extra power just to make sure the downside isn't too high on him, but maybe 5/7 is enough because, like, really, he is going to be quite large. Like, if you play a Hazmat with him, right? let's say you're doing like debris stuff or whatever. Your opponent has like 7 things, 8 things on the board. You have like 7 things, 8 things on the board. That guy's getting plus 16 power. That's just a 521, right? Now, granted, some of that power is coming from your guys, but that's a pretty big dude.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, go ahead.
One thing that I actually like about him conceptually is you can clog up a lane and then hazmat stuff, knowing that it'll symmetrically affect that lane that you've already won. And then you can just be like, this guy is 10 million power, right? Clog up a lane, win that, he wins the other one. That seems straightforward to me, actually. Like, that's just like, this guy's gonna be big as shit. I was really into him at 4-4, where it was just like, I will hazmat and play this guy on the final turn of the game, and he will be 10 trillion power. That seems really good to me.
I want to talk about Silky Smooth, because it's one of my favorite decks of all time. So this is Kitty Pryde, Thena, Craven, Angela, Jeff, Silk, Mobius, Nocturne, Shang-Chi, Gwenpool, Miles Morales, Vision. What do you think is holding this deck back?
The Vision spot.
Okay.
Because it's just missing something with enough beef that you can win the games where your engine isn't running as efficiently as otherwise. And if it had that, I think it'd be a real contender. And as is, I think it could still be good. But it's like, what it wants more than anything else is like the move Gilgamesh. It wants what Gilgamesh is to Zoo, what Ajax is to Hazmat decks. It wants that. That's what it's missing. And I don't know if that means it can't be real until it gets that. I don't think so. But I do think that if it had something like that, it would be like a very, very strong contender.
I don't own Thena.
That's a problem.
I'm cooked.
You're cooked.
Oh, God, I wish there was a better way to acquire fucking tokens. Holy shit. Sorry.
Well, good news for you. I'm opening my loan sharking business soon. Would you care to negotiate a rate of interest that compounds, let's say, bi-daily?
Daily, huh?
Bi-daily.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to come up with those kind of tokens, brother.
Well, guess you're stuck. Guess you're stuck in the rat race, my friend.
Yeah. I'm actually not even kidding when I say that if that was possible, I think it would be a better system than what we currently have. Dead ass.
I think loan sharking would be a better
as a last resort. Come on, as a last resort. I literally cannot acquire.
God, Brendan, how do you feel about your kneecaps? just a hypothetical question. What are your thoughts on your kneecaps?
I have a lot of faith in my ability to pay back my debts. But I literally can't acquire the tokens, man. I want to play this deck. I have money. I have a bank account. Like, come on. What?
I'm gonna start token sharking. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, honestly. So it's like it'd be better. So like, I can get the tokens from you, and then if I cannot acquire the tokens at a fast enough rate to pay you back at your ridiculous interest rate, I can default on the tokens and pay you with cash.
Oh, I would like that. I love cash. I would do that. I would sell my tokens. I would actually.
You know what's funny? I would do that too, as the person getting fucked. So
I would happily fuck you over.
Because right now it's like, hey, you want to play the game? Nope. Nope. Let's talk about bounce. This list is beautiful. I actually haven't seen a bounce list like this. So this is the Hood, Kitty Pryde, Rocket Raccoon, Nico Mineru, Titania, Beast, Angela, Falcon, Bishop, Hitmonkey, Black Swan, Sasquatch. I haven't played with this.
I got it.
Go ahead.
From a Brazilian player whose name is spelled Ekmati. But I don't know if that's Ekmati or Ekmati. And so this is incredibly embarrassing because this is a person I talk to fairly regularly. But at this point, it's so baked in that I have not asked.
Yeah.
And I refused. And now I'm just admitting it to everyone. Maybe, I don't know. I hope he doesn't listen. But it is one of those just like, now I have to say the name out loud and it comes to light that I actually don't know how to pronounce it. That said, I think he hit like rank 4 with it. He said he got it from a Jeff Hoagland video, actually. So shout out to Jeff. And it is just a point allocation game. One way to deal with Arishem is just invalidate their investments. They're very much a like one card per turn deck a lot of the time. And so if you can say, all right, I have a bunch of cards here and they invest in trying to beat that, then you can be like, oh, no, those cards are somewhere else now. It's very hard for them to actually win. So playing the point allocation game against them is quite reasonable.
Speaking to your experience here, I've had people that I've encountered in my life multiple times, multiple areas of encounters, right? So I've met them maybe in a different state. I met them at home. I've known them. And sometimes I don't know if their name is John or fucking Cornelius, bro. I can't remember it.
You don't know if your own name is Brendan or Brandon.
Yeah, okay. A lot of chirping coming from, what do you rank, like 100, 200?
Rank like incredibly low. I'm like 50.
It's not even going to say.
Rank incredibly low. When I logged on to film my other video today, it was 50.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be like, I don't know, 53 or whatever next time I stream. I can lose. I'm good at losing, dude.
Hey, but you win it all back. So do you still have...
I don't know if that's true.
Where you exist in the Marvel Snap ecosystem, do you still have that sort of fallacy where you get on at a certain rank and you're winning maybe, but then you get a little cold. You lose a few. And you're like, shit, I just got to get back to where I started. And then you just kind of...
Oh, Christ, yes. Are you shitting me?
So can someone psychoanalyze that, please? Because that is such a common thing that happens. Like, I've encountered that.
So, yeah, I'm dumb as hell.
Is it rational?
Psychoanalyze why I'm dumb as hell.
Is it rational?
No shot it's rational.
Oh, man. And then the spiraling tilt as you just go farther and farther down. You're like... Oh, man, if I just play for like 8 hours and I run hot.
If only I'd stopped 4 hours in. No! I think that's so much.
Yes.
If only I'd stopped at the peak, like I had any way of knowing that was the peak.
At least you're... I mean, this kind of sounds like... this sounds exactly like gambling, basically.
Interesting. I've not considered that before. What an interesting novel point you're making.
Damn, it's almost like they got the cube system from somewhere. I wonder what game. It's a novel cube system. Surely there's
does it remind you of anything? How many? I don't know.
No,
I'm thinking of a Lady Gaga song right now.
Surely there's no games that exist in casinos with systems like Marvel Snap.
Systems similar to this, yeah.
No. Anyway, you want to get a question? Oh. We're at the main topic. Never mind. That was a good main topic. That was a solid 10-minute main topic. So everybody, they can suck it.
Let's fucking go.
Let's go.
We talked about Marvel Snap for a fat 20 minutes.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, brother.
Just can't get enough of it. All right. Well, if you enjoy this podcast, number one thing you do is leave us a review on ratethispodcast.com. By the way, don't forget you all have homework. Tell us what if you listened to our voice before you saw us, tell us what you thought we would look like, what we ended up looking like, and how disappointed you were. Would love to hear it. Video version to do said homework on YouTube at youtube.com/@_snapshot. Hit subscribe if you're feeling generous.
No, just hit subscribe.
Hey,
I don't want to rely on your generosity.
We got whoever those audio listeners are. You need to go to YouTube and hit subscribe because I think we've gotten our subscribers out of YouTube. I think the Snapshot might have a bit of a recurring fan base, to say the least. I don't know if we're hitting too many new listeners per week. I don't know how they could. I don't know how they could sit through the first 10 minutes because that's nothing to do with the game, or 30 minutes.
We have our people.
Yeah, yeah. Can you imagine? We already talked about this, but can you imagine you're sitting there one night or you're about to start a drive. You got your kids in the back. They're screaming. Your wife's next to you. She's pissed off. And you're like, I'm going to catch up on my game. I'm going to learn a few things. Marvel Snap podcast. You go to the top of the SEO. It's the Snapshot. You're like, okay, that makes competitive Marvel Snap podcast.
I can't imagine that because we're not at the top of the SEO.
I think, there could be some things could kind of, stars could align and like maybe somebody has like they've searched some things in the past that like randomly put us above somebody else in the algorithm and then we're up there and they're like competitive Marvel Snap podcast. I'm gonna up my game, I got this log drive. But fourth for you. It could be higher for other people. But
maybe
they turn on the Snapshot and they sit through 30 minutes of bench press talk. Can you like absolute disaster?
That rocks. Shout out to anyone who's done that. I love you.
Yeah. Twitter's at Brendan APG and KMSMS. Thank you all so much for listening. I'll see you next week.